Hi everyone, and thanks so much for checking out this video. It is a departure from the content that Alex and I typically publish on our channel. So if you're seeing me for the first time, welcome. My name is Krista. I am not Latina. I am not Hispanic. I grew up in the United States of America in an English-speaking household, speaking only English. I got interested in Spanish when I was around high school age. I decided to major in it when I got to college, and I now work full-time as a Spanish-speaking medical interpreter in a hospital. When people hear my backstory, a lot of them will ask me how I got to the point that I speak Spanish the way that I do. So I wanted to take all of the tips that I started with when I first decided to take Spanish seriously and share them all with you in this video. So let's get into it. All of these ideas are strategies that I started implementing when I started taking Spanish seriously, but they all fall underneath the same umbrella. And that's the idea of learning by immersion, or immersing yourself in the language. Our brains are so powerful that when we start a new habit, over time, it'll create more pathways to get to that habit so that it becomes easier to reach in the future. When you take away your options so that when you get stuck, you can't just immediately revert to English, your brain will figure it out. The first thing that I did, which was a risky move, but I changed all of my language settings on all of my electronics, like my laptop, my computer, my phone, from English to Spanish. And I know that sometimes people are like, but how am I going to find anything? How many times do we find ourselves on our phones or on our iPads, on our computers, just on autopilot, because we don't need to remember how to get to Google. We don't need to remember how to pull up the icon for our contacts on our phone. When you flip the language in your phone or on your electronic device, what that does is it gives you a new word to associate with an established concept. The layout of everything that you're doing is exactly the same. It's just the words that are different. So if I go to Google, for example, where I would typically hit the search button now says buscar. So in my head, I go, oh, okay, I know what this means in English. Buscar is the word in Spanish for search. Same with my phone. If I go and I look at the icon for my contacts, the icon has not changed. The word has just changed from contacts to contactos. Doing those little things will help you begin to associate those ideas with what you already know and make it easier for you to get the gist of what it is that your phone says. And I 100% get the apprehension of changing your phone or your setting, one of the most personal things that you have, to a different language. For me, it was kind of like an adrenaline rush where I was like, you know what? Well, now I have no option. I have to learn Spanish so I can get to the settings and change my phone back to English. Giving yourself the safety net of going into your phone, maybe even writing down the steps of how to change the language before you do it. That's probably going to be a better idea than just going for it the way that I did. The second tip that I have to force your brain into that immersive state would be asking your Spanish-speaking friends, or even your Spanish-speaking friends' family, if they can only speak to you in Spanish. When I was in middle school, I had a friend, her parents were from Argentina. Their dynamic in their home was, you're in our home, we speak Spanish. I would almost kind of adapt by day 2 or day 3 of being there, because I was only around Spanish. I didn't have a way out of it. If I didn't understand something that was said, they would explain it in a way that I could get it, or they would gesture in a way that would make the concept easier for me to understand. The people that I asked to speak exclusively to me in Spanish wanted to do it. There are people who will say, oh, I don't speak Spanish fluently, and you need to leave them alone. If you are just talking to somebody who maybe speaks a little Spanglish or grew up in a Spanish-speaking home but doesn't really speak Spanish outside of the home, then it's something that is a bit more difficult for them, and it won't be enjoyable. In my experience, the people that are most excited about sharing their language with you are the ones that will also have the most patience with you. My favorite part of my Spanish learning journey was watching shows or movies that you know like the back of your hand in Spanish with subtitles. Now, the reason I recommend that you watch movies and shows that you have practically memorized is because then you have 50% of the work done already. My family are huge Disney heads, so I grew up watching classic movies like Peter Pan, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and I know the lines of those movies from front to back. So when I heard it in Spanish, yeah, it sounded different, but I knew enough to follow the pace of the story. And I knew, oh, when so-and-so says this is what it means in English. And it made it a whole lot easier for me to follow when I could read and I could hear what it was that was being said. It was a great way not only to learn phrases and everyday sayings, but also remember. Along those same lines, you can apply that practice to music. Our brains and our bodies like rhythm. And so if we can connect an activity or words to rhythm, they become easier to memorize. There are some bilingual artists that will publish their music in both English and Spanish. Think, for example, Marc Anthony. Shakira sings in English and Spanish, and sometimes I think they even have discs that are available. Same songs, just Spanish instead of English. Other people that are really popular singers, like Michael Jackson, he sang in Spanish on some songs. Beyonce has songs that are in Spanish. I would recommend looking for artists that speak Spanish, finding a genre of music that you like, and then beginning to listen to that artist's music and becoming more familiar with the way that things sound in Spanish. Look for some Spanish-speaking stations and listen to the music that they play there until you find something that sits well with you. I think a lot of us grew up reading Dr. Seuss or beginner books that rhymed. And again, that's taking the rhythm of something and putting it to a beat that becomes easy for us to remember. When you find them in Spanish, they're going to be the same things and the same concepts that you're already familiar with, just in a different language. And those words aren't super long. They're very basic and they follow a specific pattern. I would recommend starting out with those kinds of books so that it's not so intimidating. And then as you progress in your knowledge of the language, you can start picking up things in a way that makes sense. Now, the key to this is going to be reading out loud. What did we do when we were kids? We had to sound out words to make sure that we were saying them the right way, to make sure we were pronouncing them the right way. It doesn't make sense for you to keep it all in your head, because if you don't practice it verbally, what's the point in learning the language? The sixth piece of advice, Post-its. Post-its and flashcards everywhere. I took some colored Post-its or some colored flashcards, write down words of things that I had in my apartment and stick them to that particular thing. But underneath that, I would also put the pronunciation, the phonetic pronunciation. I recommend getting colored flashcards or colored Post-it notes and using one color for masculine items, another color for feminine items. And that way you'll start to associate visually, oh, okay, this yellow means feminine and this green means masculine. It's not just about seeing the word, it's about saying the word, it's about practicing the word. So when you go into your bathroom and you look in your mirror and you see your Post-it note that says, el espejo, say, el espejo. Practice pronouncing the word so that they roll naturally out of your mouth. So these are some of the practices that I put into place when I decided that I wanted to sound natural when I spoke fluent Spanish. None of it would have been possible, though, if I had not been consistent. Think of it like exercise. You're preparing for a 6K that you're going to have to run, and you want to have the best time. What do? You go out and you run on a regular basis to make sure that you're conditioned enough to do the actual activity when the time comes. If we take our Spanish and we only use it maybe once a week or twice a month, or we don't go back consistently, maybe we'll do 5 minutes here, an hour the next day, it's not consistent enough for us to see results over an extended period of time. It's 100% up to you and the consistency that you put into learning that actual language. It took me a few years before I felt like if I were put in another country, I could absolutely perform in this language and I could get through the day-to-day things of going out to the store, to the doctor, all of the things. We don't think about how sensationalized titles like Learn Spanish in 90 days or I learned Spanish fluently within a week. That's absolutely impossible. You don't become a brain surgeon overnight. We don't become triathletes in 90 days. This is something that we take time daily for and that we dedicate certain amounts of practice to, so that when the time comes for us to shine, we can do them in such a way that we excel. And that's what your goal needs to be in learning Spanish. Looking at excelling, looking at incremental improvements, and not trying to speak the language within a certain amount of time. So y'all, those were the tips that I wanted to share with you, the strategies that I implemented to create an immersive experience for my brain. If you're interested in hearing some intermediate, or advanced steps, please let me know down in the comments below. I want to thank you for taking some of your time and spending it with me today. I hope that you found this video useful. As we say in all of our videos, remember that with God, nothing is impossible, and we will see you in the next upload. Take care.